Hello again from the Champions Club, where each week we delve into the minds of champions to find out how to be a winner, how to get better after defeat, and who to throw the pizza at. With me, as always, my trophy-laden guests, Ryan Giggs and Jens Lehmann. Hi guys, I trust you've all had a safe 7 days. This week, I thought we'd pick up on some points we discussed last week about the psychology of the game, how it has changed dramatically in recent years. Starting with you, Jens, I suppose, if I might, picking up on what you said about meditation. I wonder what reaction you got when you came to Arsenal and started meditating to make your game better.
My teammates and the coach didn't know about it. So I wouldn't have told anybody. Because at the time, meditation was like very far away. And I didn't start immediately because I only started when I wasn't playing. And then it helped a lot. Whereas when you talk now to a psychologist and I tell him what I did, sometimes they're wondering if that was real meditation, what they perceive it being like nowadays. But at the time they said to me, yeah, you have to do that.
I wonder what you felt you needed and whether there was that support mechanism within the club to help you mentally, certainly as a goalkeeper.
As I said, within the club, I was actually written off because Arsene, he told me that I'm not going to play anymore and that respecting my German national team, where I wanted to play in the German World Cup in 2006, I was free to go. And I wasn't happy with that. So I thought, okay, what can I change? And I got a book from a friend of mine. Sorry, and I've read that book, and then it helped me, all that process with an osteopath I was talking about we had, and I started to actually change my mind a little bit and my trainings routine. And at the end, I set my targets, and funnily enough, or surprisingly enough, it worked out very well with it, because I did not do it before, and then I realized that it brought me to a different level then.
It made you a better player.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
When you look at your career, Ryan, you were taken under Sir Alex's wing, I suppose, from a very early age, because I think probably, your career started out when I was a young journalist as well, and I know that we all wanted to talk to you, and you were very well protected. So there was it seemed like there was a regime to look after you and make sure psychologically you were in absolutely the right place as a player and put all this the media away from you so that you could concentrate on playing the game.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you just think, I just left school really. When I got into the first team, I was just turned 17. So all I wanted to do was concentrate on football. So like you said, there was a big clamour for the first interview, who's going to be the first person to speak to him. And the manager just put all that to bed. He just wanted him to concentrate on his football. And it was probably about 18 months, 2 years before I started doing interviews. So I was quite happy with that. As a young player, you don't want to be interviewed after the game and say the wrong thing and little things like that. The teammates have a little mickey taken and have a go at you. So there was a lot of publicity around that. Does he even speak? Has he got a brain? Does he know anything about football? So then that started to gather pace, and then I started thinking, right, I want to do an interview. Please let me do something. So it was just a slowly approach, really. But no, basically, the manager wanted me to concentrate on my football. He didn't have the greatest relationship with journalists most of the time, so it was just another chance for him to have an argument with a few journalists as well, I think.
Did you, in the end, say to him, look, I've got to talk, or was it his decision? He said, right, okay, you're where I want you to be, and now you can talk to them.
Well, I think it was probably my second boot deal. So it was quite a big boot deal. And with that, obviously, you have to do publicity and do certain interviews to give the sponsors what they want. So it was getting a little bit too much. So it was just a softly approach, really. And I think a couple of my first interviews were, friends of, not friends, but people who the club trusted. And yeah, like anything, the more and more I did it, the more comfortable I got. And you look back upon now some of your interviews when you were younger and you cringe and you just can't believe some of the things that you're saying. But as you get older, you get better, and you come more comfortable with it.
Jens, how did you deal with that?
Oh yeah, I was playing as well when I was 18, and they were asking at the same time I was doing my school. I had to finish it, and sometimes they were asking me, and nobody really protected me because we were playing only second division with Schalke. And I don't even remember that there was a press officer or somebody. And the problem was there was not one manager. There were every 2 months there was a new one, and so nobody really took care of it. And you had to find your own way. And I remember, for example, they've asked me, "What do you want to become?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I want to become the German national team goalkeeper." When I was 19, yeah, and they put it like, I'm gonna be the next one. And so that wasn't going down really well. So I made some mistakes, but as Ryan said, you learn by your mistakes and you get better and better.
What sort of support, though, did you have as a keeper, and how different do you think you have to be as a goalkeeper psychologically?
That was a good learning for me when I came to England, because in Germany you do not expect anybody to help you. You have to watch, you have to look around you, you have to analyze yourself with your mistakes. Sometimes with goalkeepers was different anyway. Sometimes somebody comes as a coach and says, well, let's do that and that better. But psychologically, nobody really helped you. And I think it was Saul Campbell who told me once that as an English player, you expect the manager to support and help him when it doesn't go well. As a German player, you would never ever ask the manager to get help. It was just like, do it yourself or quit, or somebody else will do it better.
Do you think now, Ryan, do you think that that's part of your job, that you'd expect a player to come to you and say, look, I need some help here. I know you're dealing with international players and this is the very top of the game, but everyone has a dip in form. Everyone can carry on learning.
Yeah, you have to create an environment where you give the platform for players to do that. Be comfortable in speaking to the coaching staff. If it isn't me, then it's one of my staff. So one of the medical department. A lot of the time, the players trust the doctors, the medical department. Obviously, because they trust them with their injuries. So, yeah, you have to create that environment where they can come to you. Very often they won't because they're shy, or they feel that, maybe the manager's got other things on their mind. So sometimes you have to go to them. But the main thing is to try and create that atmosphere where it's open, where you can ask questions, and that might be in meetings where you don't instantly put a player down for saying the wrong thing. You just say, maybe that's an option, but what about this? So rather than just maybe when I first started, you're getting put down straight away and you wouldn't say anything for another 2 years. You try and create a little bit more of an atmosphere and more of a open forum where people are allowed to speak up.
Who did you use for support?
I think probably the more experienced players at the beginning. I've said before, I was lucky. I had the likes of Brian Robson, Steve Bruce, who were really good with me. And the manager always said that his office was open, whether it be about football or other matters, but very rarely would I go to him because I thought, he doesn't want to deal with my little issues, but I'll speak to the older players, and then maybe they would go to the manager and just say, listen, Giggsy said this about the other day, maybe you need to have a word with him. So yeah, the older managers, and obviously my mum, my friends, close friends, if I was ever going through a bad patch. So yeah, you have this support mechanism, network around you, where people you can trust and be honest with.
Jens, look, it's almost a tired cliche that the goalkeeper is on his own, and if you make a mistake, it's bigger than anyone else's on the pitch. It has to make you a certain character to be able to deal with that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think sooner or later you become a perfectionist. and that protects you a little bit, because I learned my lessons when I made mistakes when I was a young player. Sometimes I had very good games, but in the last minute I made a mistake and we've lost that game. And it told me that I was criticized heavily immediately. And the only way I could protect myself was to practice hard and to gain confidence on everything and to make all my technical ability perfect. So that took a couple of years to have that. But when I had that, I was mentally obviously much stronger, because you know that you actually can perform and you can do everything. And that was literally what gives you self-confidence, because you're aware that you can do everything.
But you must have felt it difficult, having achieved everything. You've won titles in Germany, you've won titles in Italy, you go to England and you have a more or less perfect season, and then you find yourself out of the side.
Well, at the time, Arsene told me that he made this mistake twice, to have older goalkeepers playing too long, and then I always had the attitude, I'm gonna show you. When somebody was criticizing me, or when I thought I'm gonna be treated wrong, then I had this mentality on the pitch as well. I'm gonna show you, and that motivated me quite hard and helped me a lot. But I knew at the end, that technically I didn't have weaknesses, as a goalkeeper, and you may be judging differently when you saw me playing, that mentally I had some difficulties. But it's also, I was, for example, when I was getting angry, I was in the minute when you thought I was peaking, I was calm inside myself already. So that was a very quick transition. But I think when people talk about self-confidence and pressure and stuff like that, it's most of the time it's your technical ability, and when you're aware of that even under biggest pressure, under all circumstances, I can always rely on that. In my opinion, that makes you really strong.
Did you always feel that you were better than the other goalkeepers at the club at the time, whichever club it might have been?
Not always. But in my later years, of course, because I saw them performing technically, and I knew that technically I was better, because I probably had practiced more or whatever. And then a certain part came into the game. I haven't seen a player who probably missed out 2, 3, 4 years when he was young of playing, in the first or second division, who became world class. I think all the world-class players, probably exceptions, I don't know, all the world-class players, they know that they always played and they made their mistakes at an early age. I haven't seen a world-class player, as I said, who all of a sudden came into the game at the age of 23 or 24. And when I looked at the other goalkeepers I was competing with, I found out about them. And I knew that I could take on challenges, because I had the luck that I was given the chance to play at an early age and make mistakes.
Do you think that's quite similar to you, Ryan, that you say, look, you were 17 and getting into the first team, but you have played a lot of football, more than 600 times, but you've learned so much from actually getting your experience very early in your career?
Yeah, 100%. You're learning on the job, and at the time when you do make mistakes, they're harsh. But that's when you have that resilience. That's when you start to become tougher, whether it be criticizing yourself or being harsh on yourself or from outside people. I remember, I think I was 18 or 19 and I scored a couple of goals in a game, but late on I missed an easy chance. So the next day I'm reading the article, I'll get the papers, see, everyone's saying nice things about me. Yeah, he scored 2 goals, but the only thing I can remember, he missed a very easy chance. Giggs missed an easy chance with 5 minutes to go. That was the only thing that I remembered of the article. So from then on, I'd never read any papers again, because I'm thinking if I score 2 goals and I'm still getting criticised, I'm not doing that again. But You sort of get that resilience from an early age from the mistakes. You don't want them to happen again. You don't want that feeling. You don't want the crowd, not booing, but disappointment, and reading articles like that and knowing in your head, I could have done better. So you do everything you can to stop that happening again. And that's from experience.
But
that is from experience.
Yeah, if you were a player who was satisfied at scoring 2 goals and not scoring a hat-trick, then you wouldn't have been the player that you were, would you?
No, but I think you always want to strive to be better. But you have to have them disappointments to grow. You have to. You can't just go through life, everything rosy in the garden. You will hit bumps in the road, and it's how you come back from them bumps in the road, them disappointments, them mistakes that you make. And you will always make mistakes, but they become less and less as you get older because of experience.
Yeah, so, there's the other side of the coin. You become heroes as well, don't you, as goalkeepers? If things go right, you can win matches yourself. Take me back to 2006, if I can, to before the World Cup. Did you know that you were going to be the first choice keeper for that tournament in Germany?
No. I mean, until March, end of March, I think. It was actually before we played United. I got a phone call, and it was a very big media issue in Germany. And it was over probably a year. It was always who's going to play in goal, who's going to play in goal. And Oliver Kahn was a favorite, and he had this Bayern lobby. And what I was talking before about my meditation, I always, that was fantastic to see. If you convinced yourself, all of a sudden, you apparently convince others as well through your pure appearance and how you talk things and stuff like that. And it helped me a lot. I have to say that we had a very good Champions League campaign. We went through without conceding goals. So at the end, I think I knew that I was going to play, but it always depends on the manager if he's strong enough to make such a tough decision or not. But fortunately, Jürgen Klinsmann, who was a manager at the time, he made a good decision.
What did you do to, apart from those things you've mentioned, to try and persuade Jürgen that actually, Oliver Kahn's time was over and it was the time for Jens Lehmann?
I think the exact thing for what I've been criticized, for example, when I came to England, I played a lot in front of my goal, sweeping and coming off the line and doing stuff like that, getting involved into fights sometimes, 1v1s, sometimes getting into battles with players. That helped me a lot in getting the number 1 for Germany, because Jürgen Klinsmann, he needed, at the time they called it a modern goalkeeper. And I was the only guy around. And I was fortunate to play in England, because at the time, now as well a bit, but at the time, England was the best league, and there were not a lot of players playing in England. Next to me, I think it was Didi Hamann for Liverpool, Marcus Bubble, and Robert Huth for Chelsea. So that was it. And that probably has given me a little advantage as well.
And when it came to that quarter-final, I mean, it's a historic occasion in World Cup history now, when you faced the Argentines and you dug from your sock that infamous piece of paper with notes on it. And also, I should say before that, you'd had that chat with Oliver Kahn before the penalty shootout.
Yeah, it was actually the first time he's spoken to me during the last probably 5 weeks.
You didn't talk during your training camp?
No.
Really. But you were training side by side every day?
Yeah. We were focused.
Well, he was bitter then.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, because it was all made up for him. He had a very good World Cup in 2002, but that was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I think he didn't have enough competition in his clubs, so which I had. And all of a sudden, even in 2004 when he played, I think he was not peaking anymore. And he still tried to play, yeah, understandably. And his sponsor Adidas, they all wanted him to play. And all of a sudden I came along and said, "Oh, now it's my turn." So you can understand that he was not happy about it. And yeah, he wished me luck. Because I think he realized, okay, he will not be playing anymore in this World Cup, because sooner or later, as a goalkeeper, you think, okay, my chance could have come, but not now anymore. So he wished me luck.
The third and fourth place playoff. That was it.
Yes. But what I remember as well, we were the first ones in the dressing room after the penalty shootout, and I said to him, "You see, 4 years ago you were there." Because he had a very good World Cup in South Korea. And that's how things change, yeah, sometimes in life. And he nodded and went on, didn't speak to me even after. So,
he was consistent.
He was very consistent. But
so who'd come up with the notes? Who had come up with all the statistics there?
Well, I always had notes in all of my penalty shootouts, and not when I was like 18 or 20, but I think we had a very important one when we won the European Cup with Schalke. But at the time there was more time to for preparation, and when you play a World Cup, you play, I think, Sunday and then again Tuesday or Wednesday. So we drafted a little note in the morning together with my goalkeeping coach Andi Köpke, and then he gave me the note just before the game, because normally you look at it a couple of days and you have it in your brain, all the penalty takers. But at the time I didn't manage to get that, probably because I was older, I don't know. And so he handed that little note over to me, which I always had very big gloves, and so I thought, okay, nobody's gonna see that anyway. But I realized it was different, and it's where is it? I have it here. You want to see?
You still got it?
Yeah, they gave me a little copy. Like it's here, do you see it? But it's very hard to identify.
And those are and how many of those players actually took penalties in the end?
I think three.
Yeah.
But the two I saved,
yeah,
it's always a bit luck,
every
of course.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Did I? I don't know.
I think you did, yeah. How much of, though, you taking a note out of your pocket, reading it, spooked the Argentines, do you think?
I cannot say that at all, because I thought they're not going to see it anyway. It was not about spooking them. It was just, for me, an information like, okay, he does that. When he does that, he's going to, for example, to my left corner or my right corner. That's what I was looking for. And the last guy, he wasn't on it. But I remember that we have scouted him. He was playing for Villarreal, and he took a fantastic free kick as a left footer over the wall. And in the last second, I remembered that, and I thought, okay, go to my left. I mean, as a goalkeeper, I think it does not say a lot if you're a great goalkeeper or not, if you save penalties. There are some other things. And as a German goalkeeper, I have to tell you, everybody expects you to win that penalty shootout. Yeah, it's if I haven't won it, I would have been the biggest disappointment in German football, because they expect it. They expect you to win that penalty shootout.
And Oliver Kahn would definitely never have spoken to you there.
I mean, we have a good relationship now, but at the time it was just 1.5 years pressure and rivalry. Sometimes we haven't been invited together into the squad because Jürgen Klinsmann thought it creates bad energy amongst the other players. So it was very intense, very intense. And
what about you, Ryan? When you're standing the other side of it, you've got 12 yards between you and the goal. If you go back to the Champions League final, I mean, ultimately you're the 7th spot kick taker, I think, and you know this huge mix of emotions going on when John Terry's missed a kick to win the Champions League. And then, Manchester United are suddenly back in this.
Yeah, just going back to what Jens was saying, I think it would definitely have an effect. If you've seen a goalkeeper reading notes, it would put doubt in your mind. And that's what, as a penalty taker, that's the worst thing. Changing your mind or putting doubt in your mind. And when I took my penalty, I had no doubt. I mean, I was nervous walking up to it, but I'd practiced it. I knew where I was going to put the ball. And it was just about executing it. So I think as you're making that long walk up, if you see a goalkeeper looking at, oh, no, he knows where I'm going to put it. Or does he know where I put my last penalty? Or that's so in that short space of time, you put doubt in your mind. Whereas me, I just had no doubt. And I think that is when penalty takers, unless you take, obviously, your technique is bad and you just hit the ball wrong. But everyone can kick a ball. So I think the majority of the time, it's doubt in your mind or changing your mind, which most penalties are missed. And obviously the goalkeeper making a good save.
You didn't have any
I can see
doubt.
Jens. I can see Jens then looking, saying, "Yeah, there's goalkeepers as well. They can make good saves."
No, but,
for us, though, for us, we should score penalties all the time. We should score. But I think when you've got doubt in your mind, that's what.
I think the secret is the secret is when you look at a player during a game or sometimes 2 games in the Champions League tie, then you realize that under the biggest pressure, what he feels comfortable with. Where does he put the ball? How does he play a ball? How does he pass a ball? And sometimes that gives you a very good clue what he's going to make or where he's going to take the penalty, in which corner, which height, whatever, because you saw him over 180 minutes sometimes.
My technique with penalty taking was, you see players looking at the goalkeeper, or see Eden Hazard. I mean, he's amazing. He just goes up so slowly, and even Bruno Fernandes now with a little hop.
Yeah,
I could never do that. My philosophy was, I'm putting it low into the corner. Even if the goalkeeper goes the right way, he's not going to save it if I execute it right. That was my philosophy. So it doesn't matter if he went the right way or not. He's not going to save it if I do. Low side netting, he shouldn't be able to save it. So that was always my philosophy, rather than looking at the goalkeeper, trying to play mind games and having the confidence which Hazard and Bruno Fernandes, Pogba did for a while, that slow run up. I could never do that.
By being number 7 on the list, did you not want to take a penalty?
No, because I'd come on as sub. I think beforehand we'd already done the list of penalty takers. And we had some good penalty takers. We had Tevez, Cristiano, who missed. We had Michael Carrick, Owen Hargreaves, obviously with his German background at Bayern, he was never going to miss. So we had some really good penalty takers before as well. Some penalty takers who would be penalty takers in open play.
And it didn't cross your mind as you were walking up, maybe I do something different. You were absolutely set on where it was going.
No, and that was the preparation during the week with Carlos Queiroz, the coach. We'd practiced, tried to create a realistic atmosphere, which of course is nearly impossible. But the walk up from the centre circle, place it, take it seriously, blow the whistle. And what I'd done that week, I took about 15 penalties and scored 14. And the one that I missed hit the post, but everyone was the same side. So I had the technique already in my head where I was going to put it. It was just about me holding my nerve.
And when you're facing the Argentines, go on, Jens.
Would you be more insecure if you were facing a big goalkeeper or a smaller one?
Probably smaller one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why
for what reason?
Not so the small. I used to, when we used to mess around in train, or not mess around, like Edwin, tall, I knew that if I could put it in the corner low, he wouldn't be able to get to it. But then you have the smaller goalkeepers, the Tim Howards, Roy Carrolls, who actually really, David De Gea, really good penalty savers because they were agile. So they would be moving around in the goal and trying to put you off. So again, you just got to back yourself. It didn't really matter to me, but because of my technique, low and hard, if they were taller, it was harder for them to get down. That was the only reason that I would find it easier against maybe a taller goalkeeper.
Okay.
Was there a place you didn't want it to go, Jens? I mean, obviously, in the corner when you can't reach it, but was there a specific spot you thought?
Top corner.
Yeah.
Everything else was okay, but top corner was you can't get it really, because you have to jump so early that if the guy who's taking it looks up, you must literally already be there, and then he can easily change his mind. So top corner is very difficult. Anything else was okay, but.
And in what way would you try and put doubt into a penalty taker's mind?
For example, a couple of years ago, it was allowed to go to the penalty taker, to talk to him, to throw him the ball awkwardly, so to distract him a little bit in his concentration. That's not allowed anymore.
You'd still try, though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
actually
stop you.
No, actually, if I was a goalkeeper, and not being booked and stuff like that, and facing a very important goal penalty against me in the last minute for the final or whatever, I would actually, just before he takes the penalty, I would rush out and tackle the ball away, as an example, because then you see a yellow card, but you wouldn't see a red card. Yeah, but everybody would be outrageous. Yeah, how can you do that? Yeah, but just a yellow card, okay, but probably he misses it or he completely loses his concentration and thinks, what an idiot. Yeah, sometimes you put what you said. If you cannot put doubts in the player's brain or mind, that's difficult then to save. But if you can do that for whatever reason, it would look funny, huh?
See, I would be all over the referee then. I would say if he comes off his line, that's a yellow card. That's two yellow cards. Sending off. Be careful he doesn't come off his line.
Yeah.
This is about 10 minutes to take the penalty, this.
Yeah.
Well, it's anything to delay, isn't it? To build up the pressure.
Yeah.
As you say, Ryan, look, how can a professional footballer miss a target that's 8 yards wide and 8 feet high? It's a huge target. You'd back yourself every time to find the net, wouldn't you?
It's all about. I mean, it is all about confidence. Obviously, that you got the confidence to take the penalty. Steve. When I first come into the team, Steve Bruce, the centre half, he used to take the penalties. I think he scored 13 or 14 in 1 year. 92, 90, 91, 92, he scored 13 penalties. And then you have someone like Andy Cole, third highest goal scorer in the Premier League, never wanted to take penalties. So it was all about confidence, really, and technique, and if you'd grown up taking penalties. So again, you've learned from experience. But everyone should be able to take a penalty. It's up there with penalties, for the penalty taker anyway.
Before you went on the pitch, Ryan, what did you want from a team talk? What did you want psychologically done to you to put you in the right frame of mind?
I was always quite relaxed going into a game, so I wouldn't switch on really. I don't probably recommend this to young players, but I didn't switch on until the kickoff. So I would have thoughts about who I'm playing against, but I never wanted to use energy. I never wanted to use nervous energy. So I was never crazy in the dressing room, warming up. I warmed up quite relaxed. And I never truly thought about the game until coming out onto the pitch and then actually kick off. So I never wanted to use too much energy. At half time, maybe that's a little bit different. You're into the game and, the manager, you've not done as he told you and he's had a go at you. That could fire you up without a shadow of a doubt. But before, I had managers going crazy. I had managers calm. It didn't really see the difference for me.
I think it's a good point because you see so many teams which are preparing for a game, and in the dressing room they have a circle and somebody's talking, and all of a sudden everybody's screaming like mad, and then after that they have a deep breather, like they're relaxed. And I think what Ryan says is very true, because it takes so much energy, of you pumping yourself up, then you let it out, and on the pitch, all of a sudden, it's not there anymore. You've left it in the dressing room.
But I suppose Arsene Wenger's, pre-match team talks were minimal, weren't they? But you wouldn't
not
have
minimal,
that.
Not minimal, but calm, giving information we needed. Sometimes giving information about a possible fatigue in the second half of certain players or team, because statistically they didn't show great stamina. But for the top teams, you knew you're on the same level, and sometimes only your mind would make a difference, and you had to prepare for that in a different way.
Ryan, tell us about the Tottenham team talks.
The Tottenham team talks.
Yeah, when you were at Old Trafford, Roy Keane was saying that actually, lads, it's Tottenham.
Yeah, I mean, we always felt that Tottenham had a soft belly, but they were a good footballing side. They were always a good footballing side, and I actually loved playing against Tottenham. The difference between Tottenham and Arsenal could play football, but they could also mix it. Tottenham couldn't really mix it, and if they were going to mix it, they would do it and get sent off, do something stupid. So they were always good footballing games. So you had to be at it football-wise, but mentality-wise, we always felt that we had the number, always, because we could out-football them most of the time, and if we didn't, we could get a little bit aggressive and they would crumble.
Is that something that Sir Alex said? Look, it's Tottenham.
I think we had such a good record against them. So when you have that, when you're in the changing room, Jens will know, when you're in a particular changing room and you feel at home because you've had good memories there, you can't take it too much for granted, but it does give you a nice feeling that, okay, I remembered 10 times coming in this dressing room with one. What did you have to do to have that feeling? Okay, we need to go out and do this, do that. But yeah, it was always, I loved playing against Tottenham. I loved playing at White Hart Lane because it was always a good footballing match. And if it ever had to turn a bit nasty, we normally had the upper hand because of the players that we had.
Jens, for you, were there various clubs that you thought, I almost don't need to get up for this because I know we're going to win. We have an upper hand on this side?
That I've learned that at an early age, that as a keeper you cannot make this mistake to take it too easy, because then even a very, very soft shot or whatever causes a mistake by you if you're not focused. So we knew as well that sometimes, like Tottenham as well, we love to play them because we always scored 3, 4, 5 goals. So there were certain teams, and it's always a two-sided medal, because the team which is playing you, they know, oh God, don't let it be United or don't let it be Arsenal, And yourself, come on, we like to play them because we always will have good results against them. So it's the psychology definitely plays bad for them and good for us. So it's not only one-sided.
Ryan, how much do you think, look, the game has got quicker, perhaps players are fitter. How far has the psychology of the game got to go?
I think you have to give the players the tools to get the best out of them on the pitch. I think generally players are different. Culture's different. So it's not just football, the whole actual culture between young people growing up is different. In lots of cases, they don't have it as tough as we had it. I give my example. I used to have to get 2 buses straight after school we've heard all the stories, what you had to do when you was younger. My son, he gets dropped off in a nice car. He gets picked up in a nice car. It's different. So the culture is different. So you have to treat them differently. And also there is a lot more knowledge out there now. Players probably know a lot more because of there's so much more football on there. There is so much more spotlight on football when I was growing up, when perhaps there was one game on a week. So you have to adapt to that and treat players differently. And try and figure out how to get the best out of players. I seen a sports psychologist once, and that was just because I kept getting hamstring injuries. It wasn't to do with confidence or anything. It was just I kept getting hamstring injuries. I'd seen an osteopath, I'd done yoga. Then I'd seen a sports psychologist. I just tried everything. So that was the only time that I really seen a sports psychologist. But I know players. I played with players who've seen them quite regular, and that's great. It's whatever works for you, and that's what you have to find out as a young player, what works for you, and also as a manager, how you treat a player to get the best out of them, whether it's having a go at them or whether it's putting an arm around them and trying to get their confidence up.
Do you think that psychology aspect, Jens, can give players that extra 1 or 2%?
I would say even more, because psychology is what really matters. I was always trying to give an arrogant appearance on the pitch, because I knew that somebody perceives me as being arrogant, and it's mixed with some quality. It's very difficult to beat. And nowadays, I'm at the experience, or I have the impression that players, for example, they don't like to put themselves under pressure that much, because most of the players financially, they're doing really well, much better than years before. And it's not easy to tell somebody what he has to do, because it returns the pressure immediately onto yourself. And psychologically, that is a big challenge, because the players, what Ryan said, they grow up differently. Yeah, they're more financially, they're better off. Probably they don't have to work necessarily for whatever, a mortgage or whatever. They're equipped with other tools, but in terms of psychology and pressure, that is my experience, they don't like it that much. That's why this generation I was working with, they never really had arguments on the pitch, because it always means if I tell you what you have to do, I cannot let myself down, and I'm not sure if I can stand that pressure. That has changed a little bit, in my opinion.
For the worst, do you think some of the players are not strong enough to be able to deal with it?
They're not even used, to have this kind of challenge, or they're not used to arguments anymore. Because if you look at the academies, they build players who literally more the same. They are, if you stand out with bad behavior or sometimes erratic behavior, the academies, they don't support that. So they want to have well-educated, well-behaved players. So you're not even used to start arguments, to behave badly, to have pressure given by your teammates, or putting pressure back onto them. And you cannot say they're not strong enough. They just grew up in a different way. That's my experience about it.
Do you feel, Ryan, it's almost, it's that, Jens, you were shouting at your defenders in a certain way. It's a lack of leadership then. You're not breeding leaders, because actually all your academies are doing, if Jens's argument is right, is breeding the same sort of player to fit in holes, and there isn't that tension that actually can produce, better results and spur people on.
Jens made the point about playing early on, and that's a really good point, because it's problem solving. You're problem solving on the pitch at an early age, and we had to do that. And I have seen the difference. When I was growing up in the youth team, literally, I would do anything to win a five-a-side game against my best friends. Against the likes of Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, be kicking each other. And if you lost, it would be with you for the rest of the day. And this is the day before the game. This is 8-minute, 9-minute five-a-side game. Whereas in my experience now, you see players coming off and they've just lost a small-sided game and they're laughing and joking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you've just lost a game. Even if it is, they probably think it doesn't mean anything. But it's that winning sort of mentality and doing anything you can to win. And in my youth team coach, who was quite famous, Eric Harrison, I can't remember him giving free kicks. You would have to kick someone around here for him to stop free kick. So he would just let you get on with it, knowing, of course, you don't want injuries, but he wanted that will to win. And he wanted to have that feeling that you would then take in onto the Saturday, where I just, for some reason, about the academies, maybe that is just taken away from the players a little bit in the moment. But you have to find it within somehow. You have to find that winning mentality within.
Sometimes a player, I recognize it, sometimes players in the academy, if you ask them, what's the score? They couldn't even tell you. And that was funny to see how that generation all of a sudden has changed. And so I asked them, what are you playing for? Well, because I have to play here. Yeah, but you play to win. What's the score? Sorry, I don't know.
That's worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, in my opinion, it's not creating winners. Yeah, it still creates good players, but there's a huge difference between a good player and a winner.
Look, 20 years ago, the beginning of your career, Ryan, even longer ago actually.
20.
Yeah, 30. I'm being
kind,
nice to you.
That was kind, Angus.
Let's add another 10 to it. Right, 30 years ago, at the beginning of your career, you compare that to now, and how a psychologist might have been looked upon there back in 1990 compared to 2020.
Well, we had psychologists in our own way. I just mentioned my youth team coach. He would constantly be testing you. Obviously, Sir Alex was the master of mind games and a psychologist. I mean, I played in a youth team game. I always use this. And I was, I think, 15. And we were playing against Marine, who were a side from Liverpool. They were men. And the goalkeeper just kept hitting the ball, our goalkeeper, hitting it on top of the centre half. I was 15, I was a skinny, and I kept going up for headers, and there was a fullback, Scouser, just heading the back of my head, and I was like to the goalkeeper, no, do it lower, or at least throw it, or do something. He says, no, Eric's told me to just keep kicking it on top of your head. So my manager is testing me. He's testing me to see, okay, let's see how he handles that. So you were constantly every day being tested. And then, of course, once you come through that the next game and you're playing against someone the same size or your similar age, you're getting up for headers because it's nothing compared to what you had to go through the week before. So, because of what you had to do to become a footballer back then, you had to fight for it. You had to be taken out of your comfort zone nearly every week. Whereas these days, probably you're not out of your comfort zone as much. And that is culture. Again, that's just for good sometimes. Obviously the facilities are so much better. You play football in great surroundings, but actually, are you learning problem solving as much as probably we did when we were younger? Probably not.
That comfort zone is a dangerous thing then Jens, that everything is too easy, too much taken for granted almost, that everything is done.
A lot. It depends on the clubs, obviously. I mean, I've seen some poor clubs as well. So you have to work hard for your living, and just within given means. But for example, when you work as a young kid or when you play for a club like I've experienced now, Arsenal, where it's a complete comfort zone, how you described it. with a fantastic training center. You get meals after training. You don't even want to go on loan to play because you think, oh, why should I go there? It's ugly there and it's not that comfy. That's a big challenge now for these clubs. And now what has changed dramatically as well, that young players, they're getting paid for potential. They're not getting paid because they have done something for the club already, only because this club or even competitive clubs see something special in these young guys. And that's when they get high wages already without having done any serious work or any important games for this club.
Ryan, are you tempted to send your son on the bus to go training?
Tempted, yeah. he wouldn't end up in the right place. I'd have to go and pick him up. But that's an interesting point about the loan. You know, when players do go out on loan, they're out of the comfort zone. They've got to maybe do their own washing or get their own lunch, and they're not having the things that they take for granted. So they come back with a different perspective, and realize how lucky they are.
Well, it's been a fascinating insight, and one that I think will be developed, obviously, as the years go on, how sports psychology is playing such an important role in the progress of sport. Jens Lehmann, Ryan Giggs, thank you both very much indeed for your company this week. We will be back, as ever, next week with the Be In Champions Club, and we hope you can join us. Bye-bye.